it's a big game team. How comfortable are you with their mentality now as far as going into games where they're favored to win? Are there signs which you can see, the practice the day before, night of, which tell you that?
That's definitely a concern of mine. We'll have to see today how good our focus is today and tomorrow and Wednesday. Hopefully we've learned some things about ourselves this season that will allow us to be better and take each game one at a time and do a better job of preparing for each and every opponent.
How big was that win at Syracuse? I mean, with 31,000 people there, national TV. I know you say they're all one by one, they're all the same and all that, but what was the significance of that game?
You answered it.
It doesn't matter.
My wife actually asked me the other night how I feel the way I do, why that is. And I said it came from my playing days, that when we played against a great team, I felt like, okay, you have to prove you're good or better than them, preferably better. When you play a game where you're favored, then you need to prove that you deserve that. That nothing is ever given. Everything has to be earned. And I never went into a game as a player thinking we would lose. And I never went into a game thinking just because we were good, we would win. I played in a game where the day my sister got married. And the wedding was in New York, and there was a snowstorm. And my brothers drove me to Providence. It was an 8 o'clock tip-off, and I got there at 7:45 while the team was warming up. I changed into my uniform, and my name was already in the book to start. So I started, and I played, and we played Brown University, a team that Providence was very heavily favored to beat. And with 8 seconds to go, they led 63-62. And I ended up making the game-winning shot. We won 64-63. Now, the reason I can remember that so well is Chris Clark, the radio announcer, had that little clip to introduce his radio show, and I heard it on the radio for 3 more years. He just talked about that all the time, how that would have been an absolutely huge upset. And I didn't play well that night. In fact, I think it was my worst game of my sophomore season. But at least we won the game. And you don't play great every night. You don't shoot great every night. But whether you're playing a highly ranked opponent or someone not as highly regarded, I know I've been on both sides of that and thought we were going to win. So I know how the Georgia Tech players are thinking. I knew how the Syracuse players were thinking. I know how my players think. Like, they think they're going to win. They think they're invincible. But to win, you got to prepare. You've got to practice correctly. You got to prepare correctly, and then execute the game plan.
How about from a recognition standpoint, getting back in the rankings?
Well, that part is separate. That's really about recruiting, of getting name recognition out there, of having others think we're good. We're always going to think we're good, but it's earning respect from other people. I know that's always been important. It helps in the recruiting to have high school players and coaches think you have a good program, and the way they judge that is who'd you beat.
It's so difficult to gauge the player's ceiling, I know, but do you have any sense of how close Tanya is to that, the way he's playing, where there's still room for growth, and how pleased you are with how he's playing?
Oh, he's got a ton of room for growth offensively. We're going to be working on some things today and tomorrow and through the rest of this week. One of the things that has happened is, as his rebounding numbers have increased and have been consistently good, his confidence level has increased. And I think his teammates have confidence in him. And now, he scored in double figures the other night. We add Yvonne to our front court. That actually helps Tanya in two ways. One, he gets some opportunity to rest, quality rest. And two, he has another guy who can score on the perimeter to help stretch the defense, and someone who can also post up and create decisions by the opponent as to how they're going to guard him. Right now, we're finally at the full complement of players. And believe it or not, it's a huge step for us, huge. Because I know the players well enough, we have enough experience, we have enough depth, we have enough size, we have enough shooting ability. The big key is, can our defense continue to improve? And defense has three components. Individual defense, every individual on our team's got to improve. Team defense, we have to understand the game plan and how to execute it. And rebounding. And Yvonne and Tanya are very, very good defensive rebounders.
DeAndre Burnett hasn't played the last couple games. Is that just shorter bench or what?
No, we're playing a deep bench. It happens throughout a season where the coach has different strategy against certain opponents. So basically what happened is, at the beginning of the year we only had 8 guys. We had the starting unit, including Joe Thomas, and we had 3 freshmen coming in off the bench, Omar, Jaquan, and James. DeAndre was hurt. And then DeAndre came back and started playing well. He earned more and more playing time, especially his 19-point performance against Illinois. At that same time, Davon was coming back from an injury. We were trying to get him some playing time. So the rotation was not as clear as I would have liked it to be that time of the season. He was in the starting lineup for 3 games, and against Duke, his backup was Manu. He went in and had a career high. So when a guy shows he's got the hot hand, like Manu did that day, I stick with him. To me, they're all equal. You know, who's ever playing the best at that time makes a shot or two. You know he's feeling good. You stick with him. And then the next game, DeAndre started. I put in Jaquan Newton. He had a career high. So I stuck with him. And that's kind of the way that works. In the next game, James Palmer came in and hit a couple of threes against NC State. So he got more playing time. But each game is a little bit different, and I've got to be able to ask the players, be ready, because you never know when you're going to be called. And you asked about DeAndre, but here's Joe Thomas. You didn't ask about him. How come? Because Joe Thomas was a starter for 13 games. Oh, I just think right now we're just looking for the right combinations. We continue to look. We're very, very excited about the options we have available to us. And who's ever playing the best is probably going to be out there.
Jim, I know we've talked talked about the chemistry that Angel and Sheldon have, but how big was that year for them individually last year that they sat out and were able to build what they have now when we see them on the floor with those alley-oops and those passes?
Yeah, I think just hanging out together, getting to know each other. The other thing is they practiced together as the opponent every day. See, they were not preparing to play the game. They were preparing to help us, their teammates, play the game. So they had to play together 100% of the time. I doubt they were ever facing each other. So you develop a nice chemistry. One night Quinn Cook and Suleiman. The next night they're Nate Britt and Marcus Page, but they're always like the point guard and the leading scorer, and you develop a good relationship with each other. Plus they lived together, so they became very good friends. And now you see they really enjoy playing with each other. And something's happened in the last 2 games that hadn't happened in the first. How many games have we played now? What's our record?
19.
We've played 19 games. Didn't happen in the first 17 games. Did not happen in 17 games. Now it's happened 2 games in a row, and very well could be that way for the end of the season. You know what it is?
What?
They were the starting backcourt. Sheldon was no longer the 3-man. We did not have Manu or DeAndre at the guard. We had Sheldon at the guard and Davon at the 3. So makes for a big difference.
Hey, Jim, you mentioned Georgia Tech. I think we haven't really talked about them, but they're 0-7, but 4 of those losses were by, I think, 3 points or less.
I watched them yesterday.
Not that
They
bad,
almost
right?
beat Boston College.
Yeah.
The week before, they almost beat Syracuse. They lost to Syracuse in overtime. I watched their game. Who was the other one that was like?
There's 2 against Notre Dame that were really close.
Notre Dame. That's right, the Notre Dame games.
Yeah.
That was an overtime game. When you look at their personnel, they're very good. The major concern I have is their beef. They have big, thick guys inside, and those guys can carve out space and score at the rim. Right? We're going to have to do an absolutely great job of trying to keep those big guys out of the paint and off the offensive boards. And at the same time, Chris Bolden and Marcus Georges-Hunt are outstanding wing players. We know Georges-Hunt, he basically tipped one in to beat us at home here 2 years ago. And Bolden actually verbally committed to Miami before my staff and I arrived. Then he changed his mind to go to Georgia Tech. So, we're very, very familiar with them. Brian Gregory is a Tom Izzo disciple. We know they're going to run a ton of set plays. They've got plays for every situation. He's an outstanding coach. We competed against each other when I was at George Mason and he was at Dayton, and we had some epic battles.
When Angel isn't scoring, how do you see? Could you talk a little bit maybe about the other things that he does contribute and why?
Well, if you use just the Syracuse game for an example, in the last 7 minutes of the game, he had 3 assists that led to 2-point baskets, 2 alley-oops to Sheldon McClellan, and a dump-off pass to Tanya Jakiri. Those are huge because as the game then winds down, Syracuse defense has to worry about us getting inside the defense. We were only led by 1. We get a 2-point field goal. That means we got a 3-point lead, and they collapsed and allowed Tanya Jakiri to hit Manu Lecomte for the 3. So the plays that Angel made prior to that, terrific offensively. Plus, his defense in the last couple of games, he did a great job on Cat Barber. He did a great job of helping. If you notice how he was the helper on Rakeem Christmas in the second half. So he's had to do a lot of things for us defensively as well.
Does that affect his shooting, you think, or what has been?
No, I think what affects his shooting probably is the other team's defenses are really starting to key on him. Early in the year, you're not sure what shots he's shooting. He's new to the league and, new to our schedule. I'm sure Florida didn't know he was going to get 20 points in the second half and shooting a bunch of threes. He's more of a playmaker, a pass-first guy. But his ability to stretch the defense and make threes then becomes his reputation, and now teams are really moving their defense out to guard him.
With all he does for you and how good he's been in your big wins, does the shooting percentage being in the mid-30s concern you at all, or do you just accept that as the way it is?
Well, we're constantly working on trying to improve our field goal percentage, just like we're trying to improve our defense. There's no acceptable or that's not acceptable. It's how do we get good shots for him? How do we get him free for better shots? And some of it is, patience. He needs to maybe be a little more patient, and his teammates need to find him a little more often.
Not to keep dwelling on it, but do you think he's taking some longer threes now than he was earlier? It just seems like sometimes he takes them awfully long out there.
Again, our main focus has been to get good balance in our offense. He's averaging double figures. Sheldon's averaging double figures. Manu is close to double figures. DeAndre's close to double figures. Tanya's moving close to double figures. Omar is close to double figures. We've got a well-balanced team. As long as we can continue to develop that balance, we'll be happy.